this is kind of a tough act to follow, isn't it? We've had some intensely good keynotes, both today and yesterday, from real industry leaders, and so it's always tricky to go last, and of course it's also the worst slot. So Sanjeev always hands it to me. But what I would like to do, I've done the closing keynote at the last few WSO2Cons, and my aim, what Sanjeev asked me to do is to try and say, well, look, you've learned a lot of stuff. How can you bring that together, but also create an action plan? So a kind of call to action. What can you do with this? How can you get somewhere? And I think, when you hear stories about how Cisco is completely virtualizing the telco space, or how Mercedes-Benz is creating a connected car platform, or Trimble is creating a complete platform as a service across multiple organizations. Sometimes that inspires people, but sometimes they also think, well, yeah, I can see them doing it, but I'm sat in my group and I can't even get them to fix the database properly. Do you know what I mean? How on earth is my organization going to get from where we are today to there? So I've slightly facetiously called this how to create a connected business in 6 easy steps. I mean, obviously, it's not that easy. But I do think there are some milestones, some things you can do bit by bit to get you to that vision. And I think one of the things that's really important is if you have the right vision and you have the right target, then even if you go off to this way and that way and you go all over the place, as long as you keep that vision in mind, you can actually achieve it. And our aim as a company is to radically reduce the cost of entry to this game. So radically reduce the complexity of the software, the amount of cost, but also the amount of time it takes to do these kind of things. So I really do believe that that these are achievable and that people can really transform their businesses. And I think James Governor earlier said something really interesting, which is he basically said, you're a bunch of troublemakers, didn't he? He said, you're the guys out there who are disrupting your organizations or disrupting industries. Maybe you're in a wholly disruptive organization, but you're disrupting an industry or an organization to do amazing things. And so I hope this resonates. So Sanjeeva showed this slide yesterday morning about what is a connected business, and he talked through a number of examples. I'm not going to repeat those, but we had these examples of connected government, connected banking, connected car, connected health, connected home, and he talked about that. And what I'd like to do is, I've been working with Sanjeeva and with some of our board members and some of our team and architects to try and say, well, what are the common factors across this? What are the qualities of a connected business that differentiate it from a non-connected business? What are the things that are really creating outstanding businesses? And so I'm going to go through those, and then I'm going to say how do they apply, and then I'm going to talk about, well, okay, how do you get on the road towards putting those in place? So these are a little jargony. I don't expect you to understand what I mean by these. I'm going to go through these, but the 7 categories we've got, and this is, you may have others that you think are important, and I'd appreciate hearing them. But viral business, acting beyond boundaries, doing things autonomically, creating frictionless environments, fractal scale and security, continuously responsive, and deep data. And now I'm going to dig into what I mean by each of those. So what's a viral business? A viral business is when you create an environment where you, but also your customers, your partners, and even your frenemies, even your competitors, can collaborate and grow your business and their business, can grow your revenue, your bottom line, and their bottom line to create massive changes. This is why James was talking about Uber. Uber is not just, they're not just a taxi service. They are changing the marketplace, and they're making it possible for the taxi drivers and the car hire drivers to make more money and get more rides and participate in a market. They're offering incentives to their customers. If you recommend this to a friend, you get £10 or $10 of free rides. So there are people out there with large social networks who are getting a lot of free taxi rides through Uber. They are using data, and there are many examples, and I think this is really important. That this is a hard target. This requires you to really understand your business. But what can you do about it? Well, I think this quote is really inspiring from Jeff Bezos, and I think this is the secret to this. It's not just inventing stuff yourself, it's creating inventions that enable your partners, your customers, or even your competitors to innovate as well. And that creates these viral spaces. And Boeing's Edge project, which they came and talked about at our last conference in San Francisco, I think is a great example of this. Boeing Edge is creating an ecosystem platform as a service using technologies like Stratos and API management and App Factory, where every part of the supply chain can innovate and create applications and improve the overall model. And they don't just want this to be for Boeing. They want to sell it to Airbus and to anybody who's in this business. So it's not just about pushing out their competitors. It's a really open, collaborative model. So these are the kind of technologies that can help you do that. Obviously, that's just a starting point. This isn't going to solve the problem for you, but these are very useful capabilities to do that. What about going beyond company boundaries? What do I mean by that? What I mean is going to where the customers are rather than expecting the customers to come to you. Going where the partners are rather than expecting them to come to you. So I've heard a lot of people who are in various industries basically getting their service engineers. So when you go out to solve a problem, that person can actually then sell something else on. Now, why is that good? Well, because this is somebody who really understands it. They can install it, and if you give them the right data, the right capabilities, and they're passionate about your product, then they're much better than an average salesperson. So that's really important. What about in-app purchases? You're right there, you're doing something, you're on the sat-nav, and my sat-nav keeps saying, you're stuck in a traffic jam, would you like to buy traffic data? Yes. I'm happy, I might not be happy to spend £10 a month on it normally, but right now, I'll pay £100 a month to get out of this jam and to my meeting because I'm late. So what about social networks? So I've got a great example of this, I'll tell you in a second, from one of our customers. 2 Degrees Mobile, the Niraj from 2 Degrees Mobile was here yesterday, and they achieved their 3-year target in their first 9 months. So they had a target, this is what we're going to hit, how many subscribers we're going to have in 3 years. They hit it in 9 months. How did they do that? They put up this Facebook top-up page. They basically let you do everything through Facebook. They went to where their customers were and said, you don't have to come to our web page to buy a phone or to top up. You're in Facebook, you've liked the page, your friends liked it or recommended it to you. Just do it there and then. This is an example of how you reach out beyond boundaries. And what this creates is an environment where you are not just integrating inside your organization, you're not just working with partners, but you're actually reaching out through your partners to their partners, to their customers, and creating a much, much wider reach. So this is also enabling that viral concept. And of course, IoT, I believe, is going to really change this because it's going to create new places where you can reach out to customers beyond mobile into new environments and new places where they are acting. Autonomic. So this is a term from physiology. Your autonomic system is the part of your brain that keeps your heart beating, your blood flowing, your breathing going, and it reacts automatically, without any conscious thought, to dealing different situations. If the room's too hot, your body cools itself down. If it's too cold, you start shivering and heat yourself up. It all happens behind the scenes. And as we get into these viral, large situations, as we get into IoT and connected devices and mobiles, you cannot you can't do all this with human interaction. You have to have the systems operate on themselves and by themselves. So this is where you connect and use data from multiple sources and where you can act as and when needed. And what you can do with this is create amazing moments for your customers and your partners where things are connected and it just comes right. So who's got Google Now on their phone? So Google Now is really, it's kind of cool, it's kind of scary. Sometimes it says, you know, I think you want to go there. And you're like, yeah, I do. And you hit the button and it suddenly starts directing you to the place you want to be. Other times it randomly says, I think you want to be at this place 150 miles away. You're like, no, why do you think that? So yesterday, I looked at Google Now and it said, you know, you're near the Sagrada Familia, it's only 4 miles away, would you like to go to that? You know, I can tell you're away from home, the exchange rate. And it told me that my wife's got there's a page up on a web page about my wife. And I phoned her up and she said, well, I know it was going up, I didn't know it was up yet. She didn't know it was up yet. I didn't even know it was being published, and Google somehow figured out to tell me about this, and that's a connected moment, because I was a little scared, but I was like, that's really cool. Another connected moment is this is not such a good connected moment. This is what Mercedes-Benz are doing. Every car in Europe is going to have to automatically call the emergency services in time of a crash. So it's automatically, through the connected car, going to send a message to the emergency services with your GPS position to say, there's been a crash on the M4, send out a police car or an ambulance. That's an important connected moment, and you don't want to be there. I would like a nicer connected moment. I would like the sat-nav to notice that I'm 20 minutes away from home, and my home to notice that the temperature is a lot colder than it should be, and automatically switch on the heating 20 minutes beforehand. So when I get home, I'm not shivering and turning the heating on. It's automatically at the right temperature for me. That will be a nice connected moment. That takes deep integration from multiple data sources to do, but it saves me money in heating. I don't have to set the heating thermostat to come on some random time every day so the house is warm. At the same time, it creates a great outcome for me. Did anyone see the football demo over in the corner there? This is where we're actually analyzing the football data in real time from sensors in the football and attached to the player's shoes, and actually understanding who's got possession, who's got successful passes. You can start predicting what's going to happen. These kind of capabilities to synchronize and get multiple bits of data together start to create really exciting opportunities. And of course, the technology around that, I mean, you can do some amount of that with the enterprise service bus, but where the real power comes is when you also add in the complex event processing that can merge multiple streams and do time-based analytics and then act on it. Sanjeeva showed this chart yesterday about the cost of transactions going to zero. And that's when you start to create a frictionless environment for you to work with your ecosystem, to work with your partners, to work with your customers. And a frictionless environment is when you can integrate with other companies and organizations. There's API management, but really importantly, there's things like, it's not just the transaction cost, it's also the sign-up cost. It's the starting point. So a lot of people have traditional style B2B stuff where, yes, I can sign up a partner, and once I've signed them up, the cost per transaction is low. But what's it take to sign them up? We sign an NDA, we sit in meetings, we have calls, we exchange keys. This is an expensive process, and it inhibits that ecosystem. It stops people joining your ecosystem and working with you. If you have self-sign-up for developers and good documentation online, you can approach almost zero time for onboarding. And that's why PayPal is successful, because PayPal enabled a model where previously people had to go through complex sign-up processes with banks to take credit card payments. PayPal put it up on the web and said, just come and sign up. You don't have to sit in a meeting with us to become a PayPal developer. We have customers like StubHub who are really pushing out to get as many developers on board as possible. So StubHub are less well known in Europe. They're beginning to get some real traction here. But in the US, they're very, very well known for selling tickets to concerts, events, sports matches, and so forth online, and creating a sharing environment where people can buy and sell tickets. And they want to create an ecosystem around it through APIs. Who knows what a fractal is? A few mathematicians out there. Yes. So fractal is this cool-looking picture, but it's pure mathematics. It's a mathematical formula that generates this. And fractals have some really interesting properties. Firstly, they scale up and down to infinity. You can zoom in and out of this, and there's detail at every level. The second thing is, who knows what the length of this black edge is? Anyone? It's infinite. Yes, absolutely right. The length of this perimeter is infinite. That's hard to believe. But because you keep zooming in, as you zoom in on this bit, this one here looks the same. And then on there, you zoom in on that little bit, it looks the same. You keep going in and in and in, and it keeps expanding. And I think this is a really good analogy for the scale and security challenges that we see in the world today. So we heard Luca Martini yesterday talking about how we're moving from a few big systems that do high bandwidth, high volume communications to millions of small systems that do very small bandwidth, low power communication. And we have to somehow cope with those two ends of the spectrum. Those big systems aren't going away. So that's a very fractal concept in itself. And the infinite scale is kind of needed. I mean, you know, what's infinite? So when we started doing transactions with eBay, they started putting through 1% of their traffic through us for 3 months as a test production. Within a year, they had scaled up to 1 billion transactions a day. I don't have numbers, exact numbers, but I know it's more than 4 billion a day now. And I heard one of the eBay guys tell me that their peak load is about 4 times their average daily load. So this is, you know, compared to where we started, this is approaching infinity for us. You know, this is big. That's saying it may be, you know, 16, 20 billion on a busy day just before Christmas. So these are very big numbers, and the ability to start at any level and know that you can keep scaling requires a certain architecture. It requires something called a shared nothing architecture, which basically gives you linear scaling in the cloud. If you can add another cheap hardware device, then you can add another, say, 100 million hits a day, or another billion hits a day. So that's an important capability that I think these connected businesses are building into their models. And you can see Google definitely built that into their model. And that's how they can do things like Google Now, or they can take the photos off your phone and magically turn them into cool animated GIFs and stuff autonomically and magically, because they just have infinite scale behind the scenes to do it. Our customers doing that, people like eBay and Expedia, And we really put this down to the Carbon platform, which was built from day one to have this shared nothing scalable architecture. What about security? Well, the perimeter is going. Traditional security was basically based on perimeters. Either you're in the intranet or you're out of it. Either you're on the VPN or you're off of it. That perimeter is going. If you have an IoT device, there's no perimeter for that. If you have a mobile phone, there's no perimeter. If you have a car, there's no perimeter. And unfortunately, people are making mistakes. So most cars rely on you not being able to get in the car. If you can get in the car and plug into the OBD port, you can do all sorts of bad things like disable the immobilizer. The Teslas have this little undocumented port on it. It's an Ethernet port. Plug in an Ethernet cable, and there's no security on all the computers inside the Tesla, of which there are many. So we need to move to the model where there's basically as many threat vectors as we can imagine. And the trust somehow needs to increase despite this. That's actually not that hard because the perimeter-based security is broken. So if we move to a model that doesn't rely on perimeters, we actually improve security. And the models behind that are federated identity and access management and policy-based access control. And those are technologies that we're really pushing very hard in our identity server. And we have customers like the Saudi government and the Dubai government. Saudi government has 4 million users using federated security technology on our identity server. What about being continuously responsive? This is the ability to act agilely, to change your technology and your applications as the market reacts. And I hear this all the time from customers. In the telco environment, I hear customers say that their competitors are launching new plans and offers every week. And they need to be able to respond very, very quickly. So how do you do that? Well, you want to be able to take those requirements and factor them into the code. You want to use configuration over code as much as possible. Where things like the enterprise service bus, the business process manager, the complex event processing, and BAM are all based on configuration over code. You want to support continuous build and deploy, and as much as possible, streamline your governance process. You know, there are people like Netflix who push stuff straight into production. You may not be ready for that, but if you can minimize the human touch points and do as much automated testing and validation and automated load testing as possible, then you can get very close to it and still maintain the governance you want. And our App Factory technology is all about that. Another customer who embodies a lot of these things, including the App Factory model, including the reaching out to beyond their boundaries, using IoT technologies, using federated identity, and doing massive scale is Trimble. And they have built what they call the Trimble PaaS, the TPaaS. And this is not just a platform as a service for themselves. It was inherently designed from day one to support ecosystems and to create an environment for their partners as well. And there's an excellent talk at our last WSO2Con in the USA, and you can watch the video on our website. And Prakash is here, and some of you have met him, and he's really the brains behind this. And my final quality is this concept of deep data. Once you start to do these things, you start to collect massive amounts of data. You start to enable data on all kinds of interactions that are happening. It may be login and access control data, giving you insight into how your users are using the systems. It may be data from your connected car or engine telematics, giving you information on how well this Mercedes-Benz is driving. It may be information from GPS sensors, or it may be information just from how people are using your web page or your mobile app. Once you start to collect that data, it changes your business. fundamentally, we see companies over and over again building new business models around that data. Just take a car company that does connected car. Before connected car, that relationship ends the moment you sell the car. The relationship in a traditional car environment is between the franchise, the dealer network, and the customer. And the car manufacturer has no real on-bound interaction with that customer. Unless you've got a real lemon and you have to go back to the warranty, you never deal with the car manufacturer again. You're always dealing with the dealer. Once you have a connected car and it's collecting data, you're changing that relationship. You can identify now, look at that data over 3 years and say, I can spot a pattern. When I see this set of data coming in, it means that this car, unless they go and get repaired, the fan belt or the timing belt is going to break within the next month. That's going to cost me a lot to repair under warranty, but if I can send a message saying, come into the service thing and we fix it, we've got a happy customer instead of an unhappy customer. So this kind of deep data is fundamentally changing the world we work in. And companies like, so do any of you use Facebook Connect to allow people to log into your site? If you're a startup these days, this is the traditional, the thing. You just say, I don't want to do logins, I'll let Facebook do it. It's good. Facebook actually has some of the highest security. You don't have to store passwords. But you're giving Facebook your complete data as a startup. How many sign-ups you have, how often users log in. Facebook now has better data than your investment and board do. So, you have to watch this. Who are you giving this deep data to? So it's a double-edged sword. So by the way, if you're doing that, at least allow Facebook, Twitter, and Google+, so you share the data amongst them equally, and no one gets all your data. So, these characteristics are important. And who's doing this? So, for instance, BNY Mellon, the Bank of New York Mellon, are using our business activity monitor and event processor in massive scale to really analyze their deep data and start getting insights in real time. So let's just go back and look at these all in one context. And connected car, I think, is a very clear one that we all understand. So what's the viral business? Well, you're creating an in-app car store, in-car app store, where third parties can sell apps to your end customers, and you can create an environment where multiple people can share. You're interacting with the customer in the car, offering them what they need then and there. The autonomic stuff is things like the emergency call, the ability to do intelligent routing, to do car-to-car communications. A lot of talk about actually saving massive amounts of petrol and traffic jams by getting a convoy of cars that are going the same place at the same time to dynamically form on the motorway, drive much closer together because there's a safety. The front car knows if it has to brake and it sends a message all the way back, so you don't have the ripple effect. And you can actually cut wind resistance massively and save about 20% on petrol. Frictionless, so offering APIs for your third parties and app vendors and end users and mobile apps to interact with that car. Fractal scale and security, so not relying on this traditional idea of boundaries and firewalls, but actually building the security into every part of this story. Continuously responsive, putting in place an app factory so the car manufacturer can build and deploy new apps, but opening it up to the partners so that third parties can build and deploy apps that go into that car. And at the same time, keeping governance over who can do that. And the deep data, I think I explained already. What can you do if you now know the braking, the usage, the petrol efficiency, all of this data across every car driving on the road that you made at all times. You can really start to analyze it and get new insight and improve your products both in place and for future. So these concepts are really important to creating a connected business. But it's a big challenge. So here's 6 easy steps to get there. So I think of these as milestones. And you don't have to do them in this order, but we're very focused on milestone plans. Milestone plans enable you to get to a certain point, bank your success, or change direction. And this is how we do all our development, by doing small iterations that add features or let us see that we're going in the wrong direction, something's wrong, we can reiterate and do another iteration. So step 1. This I think is really insightful. I know it's a slightly flippant cartoon, but I've seen this happen a lot. The companies that most need an SOA are the companies that have the biggest divisions between their departments and divisions and organizations. They're the ones with the biggest political problem. And they've typically gone in and said, oh, we're going to have an SOA, we're all a happy family, we're all working towards the company's success. And behind the scenes, everybody's trying to, being passive-aggressive, saying, yes, I'll do it, but. So how do you get around that? I think you get around that by treating it like an external problem. You have to get users involved. You have to make it as easy to use your internal API as if you want someone to sign up to PayPal or eBay. And for example, Trimble organizes hackathons internally with prizes to get people to come along and try out the APIs and get enthused. That's the sort of thing that you do with external parties to get people onto your API. Do it internally. So I see a lot of customers and a lot of companies beginning to use API management internally as well as externally, together with the ESB and traditional integration technology to get over these political challenges and make it as frictionless as possible internally as well as externally, and to track it and understand how it's being used and get value. Second one is, of course, you need to open up those APIs to third parties. This is a great quote from Brian Coles. A company without APIs is like a computer without internet. Would you buy a laptop these days that had no Ethernet, no Wi-Fi, no internet connectivity? Maybe if you're the NSA, you buy a few of those and stick them in some machine room somewhere, but generally no. And similarly, do you really want to work with a business that doesn't expose their interfaces in ways that can be made mobile, that can create an ecosystem? So offer and expose APIs to the rest of the world. Step 3, start to think about federating security and creating this perimeterless security model. So create a security model that extends through your partners to end customers, that allows non-centralized interactions. This is really important, especially if you're in any organization that has different groups, different divisions, mergers and acquisitions, lots of partners. Trying to create one single identity for everybody is going to work fine until then you do a merger, and now you've got another bunch of people. So planning for diverse security and diverse identity and federation is really important. Step 4, put in place an enterprise store. I think the store metaphor is really simple. It's really understandable, but it adds this amazing concept of governance at the same time as enabling social interactions. So the enterprise store inside your organization allows you to track what's being used. It allows you to advertise what's being used. It gives people discovery purposes, gives you versioning. We have done an amazing thing, and Sumeda, who was just up here, has been working to apply the same ideas that we have around API management for app management. So you can actually do full-on XACML-based, role-based, policy-based access control on apps and manage and understand how web apps are being used without changing those apps. So you can take your existing portfolio of apps and start to govern them, manage them, expose them through this product without having to go back and rewrite them and modify them. And it's really awesome. It's going to be called the WSO2 App Manager. But the enterprise store is available today if you want to use that. And it can be used for any kind of virtual asset. It can be used for connectors, plugins, mobile apps, web apps, APIs. It's a very powerful model. Step 5, ecosystems. So creating those ecosystems like Trimble, like Boeing, or even just like the App Store in the car where multiple people can collaborate, starts to allow you to work in different scales. It allows you to move out beyond your boundaries, and it creates those viral businesses I talked about earlier. And step 6 is once you start to collect this data, analyze it, use it, start to think, well, what can I do with this data to enhance my business, to create new business opportunities? And our products like the CEP server and the BAM server, I don't know if any of you went to the big data sessions, but they very quickly enable you to get to the model where you can do things like that football analysis in real time. The team's done an amazing job. We did a 4-server cluster in Amazon a couple of months ago, and we were handling 1 million events per second and doing complex analysis, not just filtering those, but actually calculating global and local medians and comparing them. That data was 4 months of data from 40 houses. 6 billion records created just by 40 houses, all having smart plugs on every plug for a few months. So that's what I mean by deep data. Now, how do you deal with that? One of the things we're doing, talking about IoT, is getting our CEP server to run on small devices like the Raspberry Pi. If you can filter and analyze that data locally in the house, it's much easier than collecting it all over the network and then trying to do it at once. So you can actually recursively do this. You can create small filtering CEP rules and then take the output of those and then aggregate it at a higher level. So I actually was going to talk about eating the world, and I wasn't sure how many of you had come across that quote, and I was about to take it out this morning when James said, who's heard of Mark Andreessen, or Paul Andreessen, it's my new name, who's heard of this article he wrote about software eating the world? And I think these 7 qualities create an environment where you can eat the world. That's what a connected business is. It's where you start to create something that goes beyond where you are today, that goes deep into your customers' or your partners' environments, and it really starts to eat the world. It's an amazing concept. And I think these 7 qualities really give you a roadmap, a sort of, like, these are the things that can help me do that. And that creates amazing opportunities. And I hope that those 6 simple steps give you an easy roadmap to say, okay, I can put in API management. I can do federated identity. I can put in place a PaaS. So I can see how those things would help me create these qualities for my organization and my business. So in summary, you can evolve this strategy through these simple milestones. You can focus on these 7 qualities. And I hope one side effect of this talk is that it gives you an insight into our product strategy. Some people say to us, Paul, why have you got these 20 products? What are you doing? What is it about? And this is what it's about. This is why we have this single platform, a single code base that can do these different capabilities. It's because we believe that these are the inherent things you need to do to transform your business into something new. And by having a single platform, a single code base that does that, it's transformative in the industry. So I hope that's been useful, and thank you very much. Do we have time for some questions? Yeah. Yes. Who's got a question? I'm gonna just step down because as James pointed out, you can't see a thing up there. So at least if I stand here, I can see you. I can't see all of you at once, but I can see you. Someone must have a question. Silence. Either we've just fried your brains, or you're very bored for the last 40 minutes, and you're like, oh, will you get it over with? Surely there's got to be a question. Oh, there is a question, but I can't see. Oh, okay, right in the corner. Excellent. It's Ronald, right?
Yeah, indeed.
Hey, Ron.
You mentioned sharing the data between, make it available for your partners, etc. But how about, the opposite companies, the competitors in this?
So, you have to build the right model. So Sanjeeva has a great example of Twitter. Twitter have rebuilt their API strategy 3 times because they kept getting it wrong. They exposed everything, which was fantastic, and then all these businesses built amazing businesses that completely cut Twitter out, and they were left doing all the hard work and getting none of the customer recognition and giving it all away. And so they had to close down on their APIs and reformulate the policies, and they got taken to court and all sorts of complex things. So you, of course, have to create the right model of what you share and what you don't share. And that's not something I can tell you. That's all about your business and your model. And these 7 qualities, they are the things that are common between connected businesses. Of course, there's a lot of diversity between different connected businesses about how you apply those and what you do. And I always have ideas. You can't get me to shut up, but I'm not the expert on that. I'm the expert on how to help you to enable it and build the software and the platform to do it. The actual what you share and what you don't share is your challenge. But we have a lot of technology to help do, for instance, policy-based access control. So you can do very fine-grained choice about what you allow and what you don't allow. So you can apply those policies in our API gateway and write very complex policies about, in this scenario it's okay to allow this data out, but in this scenario it's not.
Okay, thank you.
So I hope that helps.
Yeah.
Sir, you have 20-odd products now, right? And soon you will run out of acronyms for them. Are you going to sometime combine some of these products and pre-wire some of their functionality for simple people like us?
So there is a master plan. So firstly, maybe it's just me, but the way I think of this is I think of it as one product. I think of it as one code base and one product. But you've got to move with the market. I always think of the Apple. Who remembers the Apple Lisa? The Apple Lisa predated the Apple Mac, and it was more advanced, and it flopped. The market was not ready for the Apple Lisa, so they dumbed it down. I mean, they had a lot of sticking power. Everybody thought after this flop, it would cost them a huge amount to develop. They thought Apple was going to just fold. And they doubled down, and they dumbed it down, and they brought out a less advanced machine called the Apple Mac. And that's what I use now. Not quite the same one. But, I bought Apple shares at $10 a share about 15 years ago. So I thought that was a good choice. So the market is not really ready for us to say it's just WSO2-1. Say we call it like that, WSO2-1. It's a single product that does everything in different models, right? That would be awesome, wouldn't it? But how do you market that against an ESB or an API manager or an identity server or a BAM or a Splunk or an Apigee or a Mule? no one's going to find us. No one's going to know what the hell this is. It's not going to work. So we need these separate shipping vehicles in order to address the market. But internally, we think of it as pretty much a single product with modular capabilities. We do have a master plan, which is really Sanjeeva's vision, which is to create a tool for you. And the tool lets you map out what you want to do, and then that generates a Puppet script. You say bang, and it installs all the right products in the right places. So that's our answer to that question. But in the meantime, it's very important for us to have products that we can sell into different markets. How are we doing? One more? Is there? Yeah. Okay, great.
This is my second conference since San Francisco, and it's really nice to see just how far the platform's come just in the last six, 7 months. I think one of the major changes I've noticed here is there's a big thrust towards more of the user experience UI side. Is that where WSO2 is focusing for the next year and a half? Is really building out that user experience and Jaggery or?
So we have multiple focuses. So that's important to us. We realized quite a while ago that we had a platform that was very good behind the scenes, but that we didn't have anything we could show people. So that's where the origin of our first gadget server and eventually the UES and the store and Jaggery has come from. But it's certainly not our single focus, no. We are doing a lot of work on complex event processing. The identity server has just launched a completely revolutionary model of brokered identity that solves real-world problems that no other product solves. Our business activity monitoring has got a lot of things in the roadmap. Stratos and App Factory are a significant investment. So we believe that by componentizing and modularizing, we can have small teams that can go and address different aspects and be really aggressive and really forward-thinking in multiple areas at once. And we've been doing it for 9 years now, and creating leading products in multiple areas through this modularization strategy. And I don't see that stopping. So we certainly don't have a single focus. We have our single focus is connected business and what I've just talked about, and everything that enables that and helps our customers get there is going to get improved and worked on. All right, thank you very much. Sure.